I know.
To me back to this page.
Yeah, I know. That's why I can't figure it out.
Can you access your email from here?
Yeah, but I won't. Okay, yeah.
You probably haven't logged in, so no, you better.
Yeah. I'm trying my password is saved in here, but it's not.
Yeah, there's no. The market's good. It's no cherries. So they're still picking.
What are you trying to take over? Just your
my saved sign in.
Were you physically at Blossom?
Using Chrome.
Yeah.
And you're logged into Chrome here.
Yeah.
No, I think yours.
Can you down the agenda?
Where will this choice?
And if you can at least meet this person. Okay. Thank you, Council. We're getting that. So if you're okay with proceeding for now, and then, okay. Thanks.
So when start speak, where will his voice come from?
From here.
Just from yours?
Yes.
And it will come up somewhere or just into?
It will come into the room. You should be able to hear.
Just
So, Mayor Booth, can you turn on the mics, please?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the regular afternoon council meeting of June 22nd. This meeting is being recorded live and is streaming on the District of Summerland YouTube channel using the Zoom platform. YouTube channel is youtube.com District of Summerland. All representations to council, written or verbal, will form part of the public record and be available to the public for viewing electronically or as a written record. Members of the public are encouraged to register their name and civic address in advance of the meeting for the public comment opportunity found under items 6 and 8. Email address is corporateofficer@summerland.ca. Those who have not registered in advance may call 250-404-4052 during the live meeting to be added to the speakers list. Corporate officer, is there any late items to introduce?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. There is one late item that we'd like to add, and that would be going at the end of the agenda on electronic meetings and the new order from council.
Thank you. So could I have someone bring forward approval of the amended agenda? Councillor Patton, Councillor Van Elfen, all in favor? And, adoption of the minutes of the regular council meeting afternoon of June 8th, 2020. Councillor Holmes and Councillor Van Elfen, all in favor? Okay, so on to 5 delegations. 5.1 Chamber of Commerce budget and municipal contribution. Over to our CAO.
Ron, the President of the Chamber of Commerce, and David Hull, the Executive Director of the Chamber, here to present Council with an updated budget and Council to ask any questions. So I'll hand over to Ron and David to take Council through their delegation. Ron.
Thank you, Anthony, and thank you to Mayor and Council. We appreciate what Council has done to this date. It's been a challenging time for many of our businesses out there, and we just got hit by some more items with regards to what's happening with the Labor Minister, where we could use a letter of support from Council. After the letter that we had sent in April asking council to look at their budget and ways that we could help out some of our businesses that have been forced to shut down and are now trying to reopen or operating at limited amounts, we were asked to take a look at our budget. At our last committee meeting, we held we went through our budget and we provided to the CAO a copy of it where we've reduced our expenses for this year from $363,000 down to $236,000, which is a 34.94% reduction in our budget. Part of that was due to some staffing costs. Part of that was due to events that are not going forward. As of right now, we have no events that we're allowed to do under the provincial mandate. We did mention it to our council liaison, Doug Holmes, that if it does open up where the province does allow us to go through with light up, then we would have to come back to council. We went through, and the amount that was under the municipal contract was $225,000, and we were able to reduce that by $25,000, which is 11% reduction. If council decided that they wanted to leave that money with the chamber to support business, you've got a copy of my letter. I don't think I need to go over what we do and you know, the $1 million plus paid in taxes and personal fees. We would use that for business development. Our executive director, David Hall, who's also on the call, is working with provincial and federal liaison. I've been in discussion with Dan Albus, who's been very good at getting money for some of our farmers that were shut out. He's been able to get some of them 50% of what they had requested when the federal government had only given 5% to Western Canada. We even were able to qualify in our business, so we really appreciated what Dan Albus did for us. The challenge is the province is currently not doing anything for any real businesses, so that makes it a challenge. So you see in there a reduced cost of the budget. Part of our cost, about $8,000, is the mortgage payment, mortgage interest, and then there's another $300 of municipal taxes. The property, as from the history that we have on it, was given to the chamber via the town. The town owns the land, the chamber owns the building, and we've been in discussion with the CAO on how to better sort that situation out. So there's money that's paid in mortgage payments to do that, but overall we had a reduction in the budget. In addition, we'd love to get a letter of support from council to the Labor Minister, Harry Baines. Currently, the province, we're going to have an $11,000 bill for severance at the chamber for employees that are not brought back by the end of June, and I'm sure the CAO and your staff is also against that situation in terms of the layoff. The federal government has extended theirs out to August 31st. I know the BC Chamber and the BC Business Council is reaching out to the Labor Minister, because this is going to cause an undue hardship on a lot of our businesses in Summerland that haven't been able to open up and bring people back, because under existing Employment Standards Act, they have to be brought back by the end of June. Otherwise, they're required to pay severance. And in our situation, the chamber, it's over $11,000. We have other businesses in the municipality. And so I've asked David to send a draft of a letter to the CAO that he can hopefully bring forward to council, that you would then send off to the Premier and the Labor Minister to support an extension of the Employment Standards Act until the end of August. Otherwise, I don't know what your financial situation, I don't know if the municipal governments were given a leave of this, but I know that a lot of our businesses are not. And so either they're going to have to bring people back when they can't, because either they're a restaurant or personal services, and trying to get it opened up. So that's where we're looking for support. So if anyone has any questions, you have the budget in front of you. There's a 2-page there. You've got a copy of our letter in what we do. So we just thank you, David, and I thank you for the time to appear before you today. And we also thank you for the opportunity to work with the CAO, who's been very helpful in giving us guidance and wisdom, and meeting with some businesses that have had challenges due to council's schedule, whether it's for variances, electrical permits that are coming in 300 to 400% above what the bylaw calls for. And the CAO has been very receptive that way. So thank you very much for having him around.
Ron, was David going to speak first, or would you like questions to be asked at this time?
I think I covered it, David, but he's here on the technical part because he deals with the budget on a daily basis. We've now got the tourism, the visitor information booth is open, and he's been very sort of responsive to a lot of our businesses that are having challenges. And whenever they have challenges, he and I discuss it, and he does what he can. So if you want, we can, David can speak, or he can just be there to answer any of the technical questions.
Okay, thank you. Council, questions of Alicia? Well, I have a question. I just wanted, looking at the budget, and I understand that you're looking at a $25,000, I guess, contribution back to the district. Looking at the budget, you spoke briefly about the Festival of Lights.
Yes. I'm sorry, Mary, I can't hear you at all on any questions there. Your microphone's off.
No, it's on. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
Oh, that's weird. Okay, I'm going to start over again. Sorry. So I'm talking about the Festival of Lights. If I understand what I see in front of me, the 2020 budget showed that you had 38,000 and 15,000, two separate line items. The first one being just Festival of Lights, and the second one showing district contribution. And then in May 11, you're lean, so I put down that means after you had made reductions to the budget. It shows 0 and 0 for those two line items. And given that there's a $25,000 contribution coming back to the district, I'm wondering where the 38 and 18 have gone. If you're not able to hold the Festival of Lights, and it's a fairly good chance, if not very good chance, that that won't happen. I'm wondering where that 38 and 15, I guess 15 is probably in time, but where the 38 comes from.
The 38,000, Your Worship, was from sponsors. You'll see on the right-hand side there under notes, it says sponsors. Those were people like Remax that donated, I think it was $10,000, David, in terms of what went on. A lot of the other sponsors that did things, the district contributed an additional $15,000 last year in work services and cash. So we're not getting any sponsor revenue, obviously, because no one knows if it's going to go ahead. So that's why there's 0 there for both of those items.
Okay, so thank you. That answers the sponsorship side. But I still have a question. If you are anticipating that this won't go ahead, the 15,000 that was a cash and at least some in-kind contribution last year, is that included in the 25,000, or what happened to that?
No, that's not included. That was a special supplement last year, and so we've assumed that that's not going to be requested this year, and those services and the town staff that was used and other items like that will not be used. So that's why that item is not there.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Holmes.
Yeah, thank you. So if I understand, you're offering a $25 reduction in the fee-for-service contract, but at the same time you're asking us to forego that reduction. So basically what you're doing is asking us to repurpose $25,000 that was something else, and to repurpose it for this plan. Is that correct?
Thank you, Councillor Holmes. When we did the budget and we went back through, we feel that the business community in Summerland is more in touch or better suited in terms of dealing with a lot of the businesses in terms of how they're reaching out to us in terms of promotional things. David's been our executive director, David Hall, has been very good at with the new South Okanagan Tourism Association that we have that was just formed. There are other promotions that we're doing. And so we're asking that, we wanted to contribute back to the municipality. If the municipality decided that having a business organization that's in touch with businesses, focused on helping to build business, helping to get our businesses restarted, we would repurpose that money instead of giving it back. It would then just, it was already contracted for, but we thought we made the reduction. But if council wanted to have us do something, then we would come up with a definitive plan on how to repurpose that to just focus on Summerland and the businesses here to try and get people to do it. We know that there's going to be a lot of staycations this year. We also have businesses that are selling more within the province. We got people that are trying to get going. And so how do we attract people here? How do we get them here? How do we get them to stay here? How do we get people in Summerland to shop locally and throughout the valley? That was our focus, Councillor Holmes.
Okay, thank you.
Do you have another question, Councillor?
I have a different question, if I may.
Yes.
So, in your letter, you talked about how business is shouldering unfair tax burden in terms of property tax. That's something council, we grapple with every year when we set our rates. What is a fair ratio, residential ratio? We always compare like-sized communities from around the interior and around the province. And normally we settle on something around the provincial average or just below the average. So that's that's kind of the way we do it. If I think it might be worth something the chamber could have a discussion at the board table of what they might think would be a fair differential and bring it to council with reasons. I think one thing that's worth keeping in mind is that businesses can deduct their property taxes from their income tax, whereas homeowners can't. So in a roundabout way, it's a way of keeping that tax money in the community. But my question is, and many businesses don't own their own properties, they rent, especially the ones that are most hit by the COVID, that being downtown retailers, for example. So my question would be, how would we ensure that a building owner passes on any reduction in property taxes to the business owner? You understand what I'm saying? Can't hear you, Ron. Unmute. Unmute. You have to unmute. Thanks.
Yeah, I wasn't muted. Councillor Holmes, I couldn't hear your question because we're breaking up the whole time. So could you please repeat that? It was completely broken up and freezing.
Yeah, I was just saying, since many businesses don't own their own properties, they rent them, especially the ones that are most hit by COVID, like the downtown retailers, for example. So how do we ensure that the building owners, if we reduce the property taxes for businesses, how do we ensure those building owners pass on that reduction of tax to the actual tenant, the actual business owner?
Well, having spent a career in real estate before retiring to the wine business, many of the tenants that are downstairs would have triple net leases, where they're responsible for the taxes. So the majority of the businesses in downtown Summerland would have the triple net leases where they're responsible for taxes, insurance, maintenance, utilities. So that's how that automatically gets passed along. For the other businesses, some of our larger employers in here that own their own properties, they're not going to have that issue. So in Summerland, when we take a look at it, the majority of the business community, over 50%, owns their own facilities. So that's, or their own property. The other ones, some of the ones in the industrial park that I've talked to are on triple net leases. So that tax reduction would go down there. And I understand that it's a council thing, having spent time on councils down on the island. Just because one municipality was charging 3 or 4 times as much for business versus residential doesn't mean that you should. And I think that, when you say, well, they can deduct the business, that's great. We have a lot of businesses that aren't making a profit, and the people that they employ are Summerland residents. So again, the question is, you know, when you take a look at the taxes, we want, you know, by reduction or making it more equal, you know, for the residences and spreading it out. There's a much larger tax base among residences than there are on the commercial, and we're paying twice the ratio. But those people all live here, or they work here, they employ people here, and you know, some of them, as we've been talking to, are in a situation where they're not making any money. There are some businesses that have left. There's some new businesses coming in. There's some businesses trying to expand. But there's just a whole series of costs that need to be looked at. You know, there's a business in the industrial park that contacted me, and I contacted the CAO, and totally outside of your bylaw, the electrical permit came in at $13,000 when the property's right at the property line for a business wanting to expand. And there's nothing within your bylaw that says that it can be charged, but yet the electrical department is doing that. We have wineries and other businesses wanting to expand, and the electrical department has taken it upon themselves to charge a tax far in excess of what your bylaw allows. So I think that it would be a majority that would pass along the savings, because the small minority of businesses are not on a triple net. Most of them are triple net leases, or they own their own properties. I know it's a long-winded answer, but I apologize.
Yep, thank you.
I have a question for our Director of Finance, Dave. Could you tell us how much the district revenue has decreased this year due to people not paying their business licenses? Or what your anticipation is on that? Because of course that is used to help fund the chamber fee-for-service.
Madam Mayor, I can tell you exactly what that number is right now, because we haven't looked at it probably over the last few weeks. Staff is going to be putting a report together for council, just kind of an update as to the assumptions that we made back in April and May, and where things are currently coming out. Without having that data in front of me, I really don't want to tell you a number that I could be wrong.
Okay.
But there will be a report coming, like I say, hopefully to the July 13th.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Barkle.
Yes, I'm wondering about this comment that Mr. Kubik made about, he called it an extra tax on electrical installations. And as far as I know, there's no such thing, and we have they basically work on a cost recovery method. Can he elaborate what the issue is there, or do you have any explanation for that comment?
The CAO can elaborate on that.
Yeah, through the chair, Madam Mayor. There's been a few examples over the last couple of months where we've had a couple of complaints from new service requests from some property owners, from some developers around the costs for electrical charges. So I'm working closely with our GM of electric utility over the past couple of weeks, looking at how those estimates are being put together. And as part of our review of the electrical bylaw, there's a fair amount of discussion we're going to have with council and community on how some of those fees get applied. So we're using our fees and charges bylaw the way it's applied right now. There is no intention to overcharge. Some of the cost estimates that are being put together are getting a response from the business community that asked us to have a look at our fees. So that's something that we certainly intend on bringing forward to council as part of the electrical bylaw review over the next couple of months.
So would you characterize it more as like, why does this cost so much, sort of a question?
Correct. So yeah, lots of questions around why it costs so much. Some of the administration fee, for example, is one cost that we always get asked about. Certainly something that we need to bring forward to council so that everyone's on the same page and aware of why things cost that much and what the best scenario is moving forward.
If I may answer Councillor Barkwell on that, there are instances where we had a winery vineyard looking to expand. The original quote was $16,000 and it came in at $41,000. We have a tenant or owner, pardon me, up in the industrial park. The two lines are right beside each other, about a meter apart. And the quote came in at $13,000 when it was estimated by an electrician at less than $4,000. In touch with the previous manager, or well, not the previous manager, but a previous lineman who had worked at the district and had been done quotes for a long time, there's been a lot of concern about that. And the CAO has met with me and that gentleman, and we've talked about them. There's just a lot, there's interpretation around it.
Mr. Cooper, if I could just interrupt for a moment. I think we need to get the discussion back on budget and municipal contribution. That is why you're here as a delegation today. And these particular instances, as was brought up at our development improvement process, that is the committee that should come forward, not necessarily in a public meeting when we're talking about the budget and municipal contribution. So thank you. I think we'll move along and ask if there are any other questions of council. Okay, thank you then. So could I have somebody bring forward the resolution to receive this for information? Councillor Newton, seconded by Councillor Holmes. All in favor? Thank you.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to address you today.
Thank you. Okay, moving along to item 6, which is the public comment opportunity. We have 15 minutes maximum in our agenda for this. People that have contacted our corporate officer or have phoned in to be on the speakers list are asked to limit your comments to 2 minutes and begin with your name and your address, please. Marianne McDonald.
Okay. So it's Marianne McDonald, 6505 McDonald Place. And my question is concerning 7.3. The statement of financial information for the year ending December 31st, 2019 does not include a cost for a chief administrative officer. So I was wondering what the cost for the CAO for the year 2019 was, and I recognize that there were three people that held that position, but I'm sure it could be broken down, and I would like to know what the cost is at some point.
Thank you. So, Dave, that will come forward to
Madam Mayor, the statement of financial information is very very precise on what gets disclosed in that report and what does not. The threshold for disclosing salary is $75,000 and greater. None of the CAOs were paid that amount of money in 2019, hence there is no disclosure for a CAO in 2019. And
you're not required to disclose
We're not required to disclose it. We can provide that information. It's public information. So if Marianne would like to reach out to me and send me an email, I could provide that information. But it's not a required disclosure.
Were you able to hear that reply, Marianne?
I'm muted. Okay. First of all, I'm having trouble hearing both the mayor and also David was breaking up as well. But I think that he has answered part of my questions. So what I will do is contact him directly, I think, so that I have a direct phone line and not have it broken up. That makes it a little easier.
Thank you. And that's exactly what he's asked you to do. I appreciate that. Thank you.
None, Madam Mayor.
All right. So we'll move on to. Good. Thank you. We'll move on to item 7, business items, starting with 7.1, temporary domestic agricultural farm worker housing related to COVID-19. And I will pass that over to our CAO.
Okay, thank you, Madam Mayor. This report provides an opportunity for council and the community to be updated on the work currently underway by the Ministry of Agriculture and various health authorities with regards to considering potential locations and dealing with the temporary domestic agricultural workers within the South Okanagan. On the call today, we have Mark Raymond from the Ministry of Agriculture and Bryn White, who is a contractor working for the ministry, liaising with a number of municipalities in the South Okanagan on this issue. So I'll provide a bit of an overview of the report and then provide an opportunity for Mark to provide an update from the Ministry of Agriculture as well. So the province, working with municipalities throughout South Okanagan, are in the process of looking at how to partner and support agricultural associations, local governments, and regional districts to establish safe and sanitary accommodation for domestic migrant workers arriving in the Okanagan Summerland to work on farms. A steering committee was established with memberships from the BC Ministry of Agriculture, Tree Fruit, Cherry, Grape Grower Associations, Interior Health, the local and regional government staff to continue with the implementation of the Loose Bay campground down at in Oliver. And that's one example of a camp that's obviously been in place for a while. The regional district were able to achieve approximately $60,000 of additional funding for the continuation of that camp. So that's one example that the province have been looking at. We've also been looking at seeking additional funding for other municipalities within the region to look at potential opportunities for the setup and creation of camps or assistance to existing farmers enhance their operations in light of the pandemic and enhancing the procedures and protocols from a public health perspective. At the time of the writing of the report, there was no allocation of funding that had been determined. However, approximately an hour ago, the ministry provided some information that provided up to a maximum of $70,000 for the District of Summerland that could be used to partner with private farm operations for the municipality to look at partnering with the Ministry of Agriculture or the Ministry of Health for the creation of a camp in the community. So there is some funding available. The exact use of that is still to be determined. Staff have been working with the steering committee. They mentioned that it's been set up to oversee this issue over the last few weeks to identify a number of possible options to locate supportive accommodation hubs for these workers in the region. It's certainly been a difficult process to finalise suitable sites given some of the considerations that need to be undertaken and looked at for these operations, which include proximity to work, groceries, access to Wi-Fi, shade, camping opportunities, and considerations of neighbours and users and stakeholders with regards to certain parcels of land. So work is currently underway to identify options within the community, and at this stage includes really early engagement with user groups and stakeholders with regards to potential options. No locations have been identified for approval. The consultation process has begun over the last few weeks. As part of the decision-making process, public health and safety is certainly critical to the process for any decisions that may need to be made within Summerland and, of course, all of the other communities in the South Okanagan. So we've been working with Bryn and the team at the Ministry of Ag around some opportunities in the district, looking at a number of different sites. Council have obviously heard from the community with regards to rodeo grounds. That's one location that we had high-level discussions with one of the user groups out there. So a lot of work is still needed to be done, and we wanted to provide council and the community with an opportunity to speak to the Ministry of Ag, and I appreciate Mark being in attendance to provide anything in addition to what I've already mentioned, but also answer any questions that council may have. So over to you, Mark, if you've got anything else to add from what I've spoken to.
Great. Good afternoon, Mayor, Council. Thank you for that summary update. That was pretty comprehensive. Things are moving fairly fast. Oh, well, maybe not as fast as we like on the file, but as was mentioned, we did just get funding approval to support a number of managed accommodations for the summer. And as was previously mentioned, we are still working on identifying potential sites, potential partners, and trying to put a process in place to figure out who we can be partnering with and working with to try and set up these accommodations to essentially, really look at protecting or supporting domestic worker health, the health of local communities, and for farmers as well. So Bryn White has been working tirelessly over the last 6 weeks with a number of local governments and partners trying to find potential sites and really just trying to start moving things forward. And the next step that we received was the funding approval this morning to support a number of sites. So we are providing funding or working on funding agreements with Okanagan-Similkameen for Loose Bay or Seacrest, as well as Central Kootenays for a couple sites in the Creston area, and continuing to see what we can do to provide greater capacity for other areas or other regions. So that's sort of the overarching piece. We're also working pretty closely with Interior Health as well as BZ Housing on developing isolation plans per se for the region and or for sites to make sure that those backup sort of health safeguards are in place in case there are any outbreaks, whether that is outbreaks or COVID outbreaks, whether that's on farm, on managed accommodations such as campsites such as Loose Bay, or even the one-offs such as road campers on the river, trying to make sure that we've got all those different scenarios planned out to support in the event that any of our domestic workers in the region do have any outbreaks. So, and maybe I'll leave it there, but open to answer any questions or any supports that I can provide.
Councillor Van Elfen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Can you hear me? Anybody? Mark, can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. When this all began with COVID-19, we were advised by health authorities and stuff not to meet or congregate in large groups. Now we want to put people all in one campsite. For years, what we've been doing, the agricultural community, as workers would camp a lot of times right where they're working. Is there not the ability to work with local farmers with food safe in mind? All farms have to have washroom facilities and hand washing stations. The only thing they would be lacking is a shower station. If smaller groups camped on farms, there'd be less chance of major outbreaks, such as a large camp, and possibly working with Interior Health and the Ministry of Ag. Would that not be a better option? Just a question. Thanks.
Definitely, that is a very good question. With the provincial health order that comes along with industrial camps, it also applies to on-site for farmers, so on-farm camping as well, which does have additional requirements to help with health and safety. And we have been working with our producer associations, so Fruit Growers Association, Cherry, Grape and Wine, to encourage the on-farm camping and making sure that we've got the supports for those farmers as well. So we have increased our funding for our on-farm food safety funding to help them with those additional requirements related to the provincial order, and as well working with the BC Fruit Growers Association, Ag Safe, as well as our other industry partners to get a training program in place for both the workers as well as the farmers, specifically for fruit picking. So that is definitely one of the routes that we're definitely targeting and trying to encourage. I think the managed accommodation side was more to try and coordinate some of the road camping that occurs. I think we've got the processes in place for the on-farm camping as far as registration, online registration from producers, as well as on-farm inspection from the province to make sure that those setups are in place. But it was really more looking to try and sort of coordinate that road camping and trying to make sure that there's supports in the communities to try and, reduce any health sort of impacts that might result from that unmanaged camping.
Thank you.
Councillor Holmes and then Councillor Carlson.
Yeah, thank you. Last week at the RUS, we heard Loose Bay is expecting about 150 campers this year, which is about half of what they normally get. And anecdotally, in the South Okanagan, we've heard that there's a lot less temporary domestic workers there, and tourism expected to be the same here. So my question is, how many, I guess, people are we looking to accommodate? I guess both in the normal year and if it's that those kind of numbers have been revised for this year, and so just what kind of numbers?
Right. So I wouldn't say that we've got a solid handle on exact numbers. We typically expect approximately 1,500 to 2,000 sort of domestic migrant workers, with approximately a quarter of those being housed on farm. So that's sort of some of the baseline numbers that we've got there. When we're looking at the sites or potential additional accommodation sites, where we've really just, I would say, been in the early stages of trying to see what we could get for appropriate sites, not necessarily having a target number in place. Just we were hoping to get 3 additional sites is what we were hoping to scope out. But as far as having a goal for each of those sites, it would be site dependent. Really, I would say just trying to build the capacity for the regions. I wouldn't say that we've got a goal site in mind or goal target number in mind, but yeah, fully appreciate, you know, the industry or industry associations saying that there are lower numbers for the season.
Councillor Carlson?
Hi there, Mark. Thanks for joining us today. This issue is something that we've been talking about for a long time here in Summerland, and it's unfortunate that it took a pandemic for it to come to the forefront and for growers to have to deal with what has been a long-standing challenge. Full disclosure, I grow cherries. We have 3, normally we have 1 camp. This year we have had to split it into 3 camps. We don't anticipate needing any camp outside of what we provide. That has cost years of planning and thousands of dollars and many hours. And it continues to take all of those things. And that's the crux of the whole problem here, is that we don't have time to get the farmers to do this, and they're not willing to take the risk, because if you look at the May 13th document from the province, farmers have looked at that, and that's why they're saying no one is going to camp on my farm, because you're going to make, if someone gets sick, now I'm going to be responsible for them for 2 weeks, for 3 weeks, for 4 weeks, and they're going to be living on my farm, and I have to bring them 3 meals a day, and it's overwhelming, I think, to the people who have no legal obligation to house anybody on their farm. If they want employees, they have to try and find them, but they don't have to find those employees a place to live. So it's really challenging and it's really complicated. And I'm grateful that the province and the local governments and the associations are talking about this and trying to come up with a solution. What happens if there is no camp? What if Summerland says no, we don't want to take the money and we don't want to have this camp in our community? That's my first question. And my second one is about the liability on it. So what if we do choose a piece of district land and it's something that Summerland owns, and then we have a massive COVID outbreak or something else happens at that camp? Is it the district that's going to be liable for all of this, or is it the province, or is it, obviously it would be hopefully the employer, but I do wonder if that's been discussed as well. So those are my first 2, and I'll let other people speak, and then if I have more, perhaps I'll bring it back. Thank you.
Sounds good. So I'll do my best to try and answer those questions. I would say that this group of workers has been very challenging for us to try and find sort of responsibility within all our different levels of government. And I say that in mentioning as far as responsibilities for farmers. When you look at this group of workers, it's not necessarily an employer-employee relationship when you look at piece meat reel or piece rate funding and such. So we've been really having a hard time in nailing that down ourselves as far as where that goes. When we look at responsibilities for producers, for the domestic workers, where it's not a direct employee relationship, there isn't actually a responsibility for the producer to to isolate for 2 weeks because that employee relationship isn't there. It's a little bit different than for temporary foreign workers, where there is that direct relationship. But so just to put a little clarification on that. As far as trying to find appropriate sites, and if we are not able to find an appropriate site, or if a local government isn't willing to partner with us, that's where we're looking at that sort of broader list that Bryn White had been working on to go to the next. I know we've only got 6 sites potentially identified so far, so we'd be looking to sort of go down the list on each of those to see where we can find a local government partner to work with. And then aside from that, I think, if we aren't, lucky, or I don't know if lucky is the right word, but we don't find any local government partners, that's where the province will have to take it back and make the decision, is this something that we're willing to take on as a province and take that sort of ownership lead on as far as Crown land or all those pieces. And I think, similar difficult conversations would be, need to be had, within the province as well. We've got a lot of, NIMBYism, not wanting to set up a concentrated spot in any given region. With neighbors, I think that goes without saying. There's a lot of zoning issues that we still need to figure out on a number of these sites. So we fully appreciate the challenges that are out there. And then going back to sort of the isolation plans, safeguards related to if there was an outbreak and where that responsibility lies, depending on the scenario, it could be very different. So whether there's 1 or 2 that are in a camp, or whether that's on farm, we've been working with Interior Health to really try and figure out where those liabilities, responsibilities lie. And it does come back to sort of a broad range of responses depending on how an outbreak could occur, if it's 1 or 2, if it's multiple in a region. I think we're getting a handle as far as, if it's 1 or 2 in a camp, and, working with BC Housing and having some accommodated sites, or even setting up part of a camp per se as an isolation site. But when it gets into the broader outbreak piece, that's really where Interior Health comes in, and it's sort of their authority, responsibility to essentially find a quarantine site, and they would likely move into their legislative powers within any given region for whether that's local government or somebody to set up a site. But we haven't, and that's quarantine site per se, not the accommodated camping site, but we haven't gotten to that sort of level of detail as far as Interior Health prescribing certain sites that could work in regions. We haven't quite got there yet.
To follow on that then, so in Summerland, cherry harvest is going to begin next weekend. And so I just wonder, like, if we're not there yet, we're just going to get there when we get there, or is it we're going to see who shows up to start?
So when we look at quarantine sites per se and having that backup plan in place, Interior Health really deals with that on a one case-by-case basis, and they have a team of inspectors that go on and do that assessment and make that decision of where a quarantine site might be best placed or how to manage that. So I would say they're a little resident to, tell us that, if there was an outbreak in this region, we're going to put them all up in this hotel. So it's not that that process or system isn't in place. It's just that it's on the quarantine assessment. It's really site specific. But perhaps in relation to your comment as far as setting up the accommodation sites, we fully appreciate that we're really under the gun on getting that. Bryn's done a lot of great work with the local governments on assessing potential sites, but like I mentioned earlier, fully appreciate that there's a lot of community pushback in different regions. We still have pieces to go through on zoning and making sure that's in place, but we are hoping to get past that first hurdle of getting the funding in place to even move some of these conversations forward, which we have gotten now. But And then I guess in the background, we've also been working with BC Wildfire Service and some of their resource and supports as far as putting a temporary camp in place or having access to some of the resources or the contacts that they have for, you know, additional hand washing stations or showers or such, so that we could mobilize quite quickly if we do find a willing partner or way to move forward.
For now? Okay. Councillor Trainer.
Hi, Mark. Can you hear me okay?
I can, yes.
With regards to these camps, do you see them as voluntary? Like, how do we, when the people arrive here, how do you guys, I guess, get them to the camp? Is it mandated? Can they volunteer to go? How does that work?
No, at this point, it would be all volunteer to get them to go. We are looking at making sure that they've got or have taken the required training through AgSafe, WorkSafe BC, or the BC Tree Fruit Growers Association, so that they've got, you know, some level of understanding in regards to their, you know, roles, responsibilities, and how they should be acting in a safe manner, how they should be reporting or, you know, contacting 811 or local health authorities, or even their employers or potential employers if they have symptoms. So we are looking at trying to make sure they've got the education and training available and required to go into these managed accommodations, but at this point it would be voluntary.
Okay, so I guess in theory then we could set up a camp and not that many people, they might not choose to come. They could continue to do their rural camping as they've done before.
Definitely, I would say it's probably more of the if you build it, they will come approach or model. But that being said, we are also looking at increased sort of compliance enforcement on some of the provincial crown land to make sure that, you know, there isn't large congregations of rogue camping per se, to try and encourage people into some of the managed accommodations where some of the health protocols would be followed stricter, likely.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Patton and then Councillor Van Elfen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mark, can you hear me?
I can, yes.
Thank you. I just have one question, and it was something that you just briefly spoke about, and that is road campers. Whose responsibility will it be to monitor road campers?
Yeah, I wouldn't say that I've got a great answer for that one. You know, I think from our provincial side, on our provincial crown, we are looking to step that up. But it could also be working with IHA and inspections from that broader side. But I wouldn't say that I'm aware of any active conversations as far as inspection enforcement plans on road camping at this point.
Thank you so much.
Councillor Van Elfen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Question through to Bryn White, if I may. Bryn, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Have you been able to secure a location in Penticton?
So the places that we were looking at in terms of a regional plan were trying to focus on spots that were very, very close to the work, and where we were having conversations with community partners to kind of see where there were concentrations historically of illegal camping, and so where the needs were. We were really looking to deploy those needs in places where they were coming up historically. So we were looking in the Similkameen, the Osoyoos area, Naramata, and Summerland sort of came up as places where there may have been some need, and that again may have changed this year, just given that we have less backpackers and the seems like we have less folks that are coming from across Canada to work, and maybe the crops themselves, and there may be some changes happening from minute to minute that we need to pay attention to. So we didn't look at Penticton specifically, but there are services in Penticton that we may need to draw from, for example, for isolation and or quarantine.
Thank you.
Councillor Holmes.
Yeah, thank you. I understand that this isn't a new issue and we need to find some sort of long-term solution, but if we're talking about this short-term for this year to deal with the pandemic, if Loose Bay isn't a campground specifically for agricultural workers, it's a campground, anybody can go there and camp. And that's my understanding, there are people who do that. We have a municipal campground here in Summerland. I know some agricultural workers stay there, but I imagine for most it's too expensive for them to stay there. So my question is, would we be able to use some of that provincial money to lower our fees, to compensate the campground operator for their lost income by lowering those fees for temporary agricultural work?
Our CEO will speak to that.
Yes, through the chair, Madam Mayor, that's certainly a discussion we would definitely want to have with the ministry. We have the campground that exists, and in the past there's been some of the workers have used that campground. It is fairly busy this year, as you can imagine, so that'll be one of the discussions that we're going to have. But I think it's a great use of those funds, potentially, given the infrastructure is set up there at that campground. So we certainly will take that advice and as the discussions continue, look at what the options are for that location.
Lori, did you want to add anything to that? No. Okay, thank you. Councillor Carlson and then Councillor Barkle.
So to follow on what Councillor Holmes just said, I wonder if the conversations have been had about using also some of that money to have simply the hygiene facilities in a centralized location as a starting point, knowing that another thing that farmers used to do if they didn't have proper hygiene facilities would be to buy shower tokens or pool passes for their employees so they could use the facilities and still have that resource. Currently, that resource is unavailable. So I'm just wondering if we're not expecting every farm to have one shower per however many people it's supposed to according to this document, I wonder if we might just start there and not necessarily call it a campsite, but now you've got a centralized location, you can train and educate people. There's showers, there's toilets, there's a cleaning protocol and a cleaning staff and some oversight and maybe some monitoring. I know that that's not the solution that is necessarily wanted long term or even short term for the pandemic, but right now there's nothing, and we don't want people, whoever they are, whether they're travelers or transients or are indeed employed in the fruit industry, to just overrun the 2 washrooms that we have in our local park. So I just wonder if we might have that conversation or if it's something that would be considered.
Could you speak to that?
Certainly, Madam Mayor. I think, again, I think the timelines are quite tight right now. So it's certainly looking at all options, and we'll have to work closely with the ministry on the use of those funds and get their approval if that is a solution that we can work with. So certainly another option for us to look at.
Just to follow that, and it would be an opportunity for suggesting other locations where people legally could camp if they don't have somewhere to go. Offer them how they can get on the BC Transit bus, and offer them how they can, camp at Peach Orchard or out at, there's a few other campsites around Dickinson's and things like that. So I think that if we're not going to have the perfect solution by next week, perhaps we can have an imperfect starting point.
If I could just add to what our CAO just said, really, and I know that it just came in this morning, but really we've been talking about that, and I say we, I'm talking about staff, but initially I was part of the conversations as well, and it has always been, regardless of what has been out there on social media, it has always been a place where the ag workers, who we absolutely need in Summerland, where they can stay in a safe and healthy environment, and at the same time the community knows that they are in a safe and healthy environment, not only for the workers themselves, but safe and healthy for the environment that they're in. So that's something else that it's, as Anthony said, having that money potentially showing up just kind of last minute. Those conversations haven't even had a chance to, be determined. That's good. Those are really good thoughts, Councillor Carlson. Councillor Barlow.
Yes, I too have some questions about the funds. That's a kind of a game changer, I think. Is there any restriction on their use? Has any been earmarked already for salaries or anything? Or is it, whatever that can reasonably be considered to contribute towards solving the problem? And like a shuttle bus, let's say the location is kind of difficult for transportation and you could spend so much to hire a bus to people around when, so any restrictions?
Through the chair, Madam Mayor, Mark, you can maybe speak to that. I know it's obviously early days when the funding was announced, but I believe all those details would yet to be determined. But Mark, you can maybe speak to any restrictions on those funds.
Sure, I would say that at this point, I think the funding discussions can be pretty broad or open. There were a few limitations in our funding approval that came forward, there's some limitations around site security and such, but I think that for the most part, and I'm not sure why that actually was, it could have been because there was duplicate requests in the system when that was put forward. But for the most part, I think that we're definitely open to having those conversations to see how the funds can be best utilized for the health and safety of the workers and the community.
Anyone else have questions? Councillor Carlson, did you have anything else?
Just my final thought is that I think it was mentioned that Loose Bay isn't free. And so if someone wanted to come and use this facility, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's just a free-for-all and everyone's, you can come and have a 2-hour shower. I think that these things are quite, there could be minimal charges that are put in place, or at least expectations put in place around it. I mean, just another thing to point out, I guess. And I just wonder if Loose Bay is working really well, and I'm told it is, if it could be used as if we could actually tell the community what those protocols are that are in place, what they're doing at Loose Bay that makes it a safe place for people to go and be, because I know that's a big fear, is that no one necessarily explains that there will be this intake process and that everybody will get this training and that it costs $5 a night and all of the things that come along with having that facility in the south of Okanagan. If they would be similar things in place for a different facility, if we do get to the point where we find that location, making sure that that's on the table at the same time as talking about whether it's going to go ahead or not, because it's not just going to be a big place and people can go park, and that's what the expectation of some of the neighbors is. So I just put that out there carefully.
And from a provincial standpoint, yeah, definitely agree and support that, wanting to share all of the materials, the processes, the criteria that we've got in place for Loose Bay. And, if we do come up with a successful site, the province wants to make sure it's fully resourced and has all the safeguards and supports around it. So I think definitely have our support in making sure that all of those pieces are pulled together.
Any other questions for delegation? Councillor Van Otten.
Thank you. Has there been any money offered to farmers directly to set up their own facility in a smaller scale? And then once those domestic workers are on that farm, then they stay on that farm until that harvest is completed, and then we don't have people, bouncing from farm to farm to farm, possibly carrying a pandemic or what have you if they are sick. But at least everybody, they're in one area, but it's not such a large group. So has there been any funding allocated directly to farms?
Yeah, so I would say definitely the province has its on-farm food safety program, which has been ongoing and available to farmers. We've topped that funding up for this year to make sure that there is funds available. And we've also got a request into central government for more funds to go for those on-farm, on-site supports. But fully appreciating that, it is the nature of the domestic migrant workers to move from farm to farm to farm as the season progresses and such. So, but yeah, trying to cover it from both sides as well.
Thank you.
So, sorry, it's not a council topic on this one, but the fund that you just spoke of, we applied more than 3 weeks ago, and there was no funding available for the farmers to actually. It was all tapped out at that point in time, and we've heard nothing since. And so I would suggest that there's a problem with the funding model. If you're asking the farmers to go through that process and to fill in multiple forms and then wait to see if there's anything left, it's for masks and gloves and sanitizer and all the things that we now have to have for COVID. But no, that fund does not exist, and I don't know anyone that's received funds from that fund. So that's just more of a person.
Okay, I will follow up on the status of that for sure.
I just wanted to bring forward one thing. On Friday, I attended a virtual town hall. It was about tourism. And of course, one of the big drivers of tourism in the South Okanagan is the wine industry. And there was a woman on the call who was saying that she has concerns about this not being able to get the workers that she needs this year for her vineyard. And so I just wanted to throw it out there that although we've heard from people in the south that the cherry harvest is not as large as it necessarily has been in the past, that the season is not just for cherries, and these ag workers are not just for cherries. It extends quite a few more months into harvest of vineyards as well, and maintaining and pruning and things like that. So I just wanted to add that as well when we're talking about how long we may need to, provide an area for these people to safely live. Thanks. Okay, any other questions? Could I have someone bring forward this to receive this for information? Councillor Van Elfen, seconded by Councillor Holmes. All in favor? Oh, sorry. Councillor Barkle has another question.
Yeah, it's more of a comment once we got to this stage. I read all the letters from the various people, mostly against the rodeo grounds. If everybody hasn't read the letters, the one that would be of particular interest would be Doreen and Jack Young, which really has a good history of the facility. I can't think of anywhere else that has had so much community involvement in the construction of a facility. And despite all the objections, I wonder, and I just want to put it to the executive of that organization, whether they might look at it differently if there was money available for enhancements to the facility, because many of the objections are saying, well, it's not really set up for this, and everything's falling apart, it's old, and such, and maybe for a small group in a certain area, if the executive worked with this group and there was, they saw a benefit to the group itself from improvements to the facility, maybe we're talking about. I just wanted to don't write them off entirely, they might be receptive.
Okay, so we're ready to call a question then. All in favor? Thank you. Now, next on the business items, 7.2, the Arts and Cultural Center project update. Again, to our CEO.
Okay, thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm going to share my screen. I've got a few slides to run through this project with council and the community. Okay, just confirming, is that visible on everyone's screen? Perfect. So I want to provide an opportunity to update council and the community on the Arts and Culture Centre project that it's been underway for a little while over the last few years, looking at the opportunities to reinvest in that site in a key location in the downtown of Summerland. The property is located on the corner of Wharton Street and Prairie Valley Road, owned by the District of Summerland. You can see they're highlighted in red with the building in the dashed area that is subject to the Phase 1 renovation plans. A bit of background, the identification of the need for investment in this space was identified as part of the 2016 cultural plan. You can see there one of the key action items or strategic directions looked at providing enhancements to public spaces and cultural spaces. Action number 3 led to the creation of this project over the last few years. The subject property, in a bit more detail, you can see the longer term vision for this property based on some concepts that were put together as part of the federal grant application, looked at enhancements to the building, but also looked at future expansion or amenity upgrades to the space around the building, which are obviously subject to a future discussion. The Phase 1 plans that are in front of council for discussion look at a more modest investment in this building compared to some of the previous work that was put in place to look at a larger renovation and beautification of this building, tying it to a federal grant that was submitted over the last year or so. Unfortunately, earlier in the year, we found out that that grant application was not successful, and that grant application looked at a renovation plan of approximately $1.3 million. So we've looked at working with the Art Council, looking at revising that budget based on the available funds, the funds that the district is allocated, and the funds that have been achieved by the Arts Council over the last year or so. So this phase looks at, the first phase of the project looks at really enhancing the existing infrastructure within the building, setting it up for future investment into the future. The first phase looks at the art gallery and Art Council moving from the upper level to the lower level of the space, and creation of a multi-purpose space on the upper level, which is intended to be used by the Arts Council and also other groups in the community, including district for its programming. The building itself is in good structural condition. However, there's a number of deficiencies which need to be looked at in this first phase to set it up for success into the future. Building code deficiencies, exterior upgrades to accessibility on the main entry, looking at improving accessibility for all into the space, improving signage, wayfinding for the building and user groups. The interior upgrades focus on accessibility, as I've said, looking at upgrading the washroom facilities within the building. And as I've outlined in the report, we do have some specific funding from the Rick Hansen Foundation that is to be allocated for accessibility improvements to the public washrooms in that space. Interior upgrades, life safety upgrades, functional upgrades, as we've outlined in the report, provide for the provision of new administration offices in the northeast corner of the building and modifying the storage room on the main floor. And I'll run through the images shortly as well. The mechanical upgrades contained within the first phase proposal look at updating a lot of the infrastructure within the building to improve it from a life safety point of view, from a public health point of view, and user group point of view within the building itself. Electrical upgrades, again, looking at enhancing emergency lighting within the space, upgrading fire alarm systems, electrical upgrades, lighting controls as well. So in the council report, we provided all the details in terms of what could be included within the first phase, again, setting the building up for future success and subsequent phases. Just to run through the illustrations or the images design work that has been completed so far. This shows the existing lower level, showing the configuration that exists today. The proposed phase 1 looks at enhancements to the washroom facilities along the north portion of the building, an update to the CUPE offices, which already exist in that space, so we're just relocating those, and upgrades the storage space along the northeast corner. There's a new office, an admin and box office area that would be there to accommodate the Arts Council and provide for enhanced service for the art gallery space, which is now proposed to be on the lower level. Some of the main enhancements to the accessibility or the front of the building along Wharton Street include a new ramp from Wharton Street down to a lower courtyard area that provides better access and direct access from accessibility point of view to the lower level of the building. Upstairs, this floor plan shows the existing upper level. The proposal for phase 1 for the upper level looks at enhancing the staff room area for the multi-purpose space, which is now intended to be created upstairs, enhancing storage spaces, and really looking at increasing the usability of that space, providing as much flexibility in the design of that space now that the Arts Council will be in the lower level of the building. In the future, just so council and the community can see what the intention is long term, further accessibility upgrades should there be further funding available, looking at new elevator and new main entry enhancements and gift shop at the front of the building or the east side of the building. And on the upper level, you can see some of the enhancements to the entry of that multi-purpose space and looking at a variety of different configurations of how that space could be used for concert settings, for weddings, events, and really looking at enhancing it for a variety of user groups in the community. Cost estimates for the project from a mechanical and electrical upgrade side of things range between $130,000 and $200,000. Architectural upgrades range between $150,000 and $250,000. The available funding, however, is limited to the grants that we have available from the gaming grant that the Arts Council have moved ahead with, the Rick Hansen grant, and the district, which has currently allocated $250,000 for the project. So just under $400,000 of funding that's available for the first phase. Should the project move ahead, it will be important to make sure that those funds are used in the most efficient way as possible for the first phase of the project. In terms of a timeline, May 12th, we presented the updated concept plans to the Arts Council. June 9th, reiterated that with the architect who's on the line. I'll introduce Carl in a second. And then today's council meeting looking for some direction to support moving ahead with this project, which if council support moving it ahead, detailed design would then be undertaken working with the Arts Council, the user groups, and bringing that back to council before moving ahead with construction. One of the other components of this process also involves the work that has been underway with the Arts Council over the last year or so, looking at updating the management framework. Council provided some direction in November of last year, providing direction for staff to complete a 5-year work or management framework with the Arts Council, looking at a shared management framework. So should council support moving the project forward, we'll be sitting down with the Arts Council, looking at long-term partnership opportunities, looking around tenancy and user group agreements to make sure it's as efficient as possible and to the satisfaction of council. So the staff recommendation is to have council support for the first phase of the project, and prior to awarding of any of the construction of the project, we'll be bringing back the finalized scope of the work to council for approval and also the management agreement. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Did you want to introduce Mr. Meiklejohn now? Or?
I will. Thank you. I should have introduced him at the start, but Cal's been working on the project over the last year or so, working with the Arts Council and district staff on the concept. So Cal's here to answer any technical questions on the renovations and the status of the building if council have any questions.
Hi, everyone.
Welcome, Cal.
Thank you.
Council, any questions, technical or otherwise, on the presentation? Councillor Holmes.
Yeah, thank you. First, I'd say I'm really excited that this project's finally getting off the ground. It's too bad we didn't get that grant, but that's life. It's kind of unfortunate that all the money has to be spent on basically bringing the building up to code rather than turning it into a cultural center, but not a lot of incentive out there to repurpose otherwise structurally sound old buildings. But maybe that's just a sad commentary on today's society. I don't know. I don't have any questions for Cal. Last time we talked, a pandemic was triggered the very next day. So I don't think but I do have a question. We did. I remember talking earlier about why there was a QP office in an arts and cultural center, and so that question kind of still stands. I thought we were trying to find another place for the QP office, but I guess it's still there.
Yes, staff in the past have been working closely with QP on that space, and I think further discussions still need to be had around the use of that space, but the intention was to retain that space in the existing building, and through the design work, looking at making sure that did not impact on the gallery space. But those discussions are going to be ongoing before any of the plans are finalized.
Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Barco.
Yes, I was going to bring up the same thing. In our previous term, I think it was discussed that the Arts Council wanted the space. At that time, I don't think there was as much space as there is now at the municipal hall since we've taken over the basement. So maybe that's a possibility. I mean, everybody. That's all I can say is I hope that they can do something because the people who are more closely involved really know.
Any other questions? Okay, could I have someone bring forward the motion? Councillor Patton, could I ask you to just read it, please?
Absolutely.
Thank you. It's also on the screen.
Oh, thank you. That council approve the design and cost estimate refinement of phase 1 for the art and cultural center renovations, and that prior to award of the tender for the construction of the project, staff bring back the finalized scope of work for council approval to ensure budget is met. And further, that staff bring a finalized management agreement between the district and the Arts Council prior to the commencement of the construction process.
Thank you. Seconder, Councillor Van Alden. Further discussion? Councillor Patton.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I too am very happy to see this move forward. It wasn't that long ago that we did make a commitment to the Arts and Cultural Council at the time that they did have our council support in ensuring that they move forward and that we did have their back, so to speak. So this is great. It's going to be great for Summerland. And I think that the design that Mr. Meiklejohn has designed is going to be very usable in the future. And thanks for your hard work, Cal. And that's all. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Further discussion? Well, I have to say, sitting on as the liaison on the Arts Council, they have been so patient over the last year, and then hearing the not so pleasant news about us not receiving the grant. And again, I'd like to thank you, Mr. Meiklejohn and Anthony Headed, for carrying on with this, although you know, it's kind of like a underground infrastructure kind of conversation. It's a lot more fun to do the so-called sexy things, and people don't think so much about the underground infrastructure and how critical that is. But if this gets us to a start on a project that brings it up to code, makes it safe, makes it more accessible, which is a big thing that we need to address, then that's good. And I'm pleased that we're finally getting on with this. I do have one question about with the recommendation. It talks about finalized management agreement before the construction process begins. And I know that the work has to be done in terms of the estimate and all of that first. I'm wondering if those two things that need to be done are aligned time-wise, or if there will be a delay in one or the other.
Through Chair, Madam Mayor, I think I've had a discussion with I believe it's the Director of the Arts Council, and I think we've got an opportunity over the next few weeks, 4 to 8 weeks before this comes back in front of Council to have those decisions. I think the reason we recommended that is that prior to the expense of the majority of that $380,000-$400,000, we have that agreement back in front of Council. Council are confident in how that space is going to be used, and that's why we brought it forward. And I think we're going to have to work hard with the Arts Council, but they're certainly aware of the direction we got from Council around the shared nature of the space, and again, there'll be obviously a key and the majority tenant of that space, but making sure it's available for other user groups will be an important part of the discussion that we'll have to move forward with over the next few weeks.
Thank you very much. One of the things that I think it was Councillor Holmes was mentioning is that, repurposing a building, especially one that has the ability to have space for multi-use, is really important. And so I think that a management agreement, I can't see that there would be an issue with that. And that the council is good partners in that. The Arts Council is a good partner in that. And I think that you can probably attest to that now.
Yes.
Patton? Yes. So thank you. Is there any further discussion before I call the question? Okay, all those in favor? And none opposed. Thank you. What we've all been waiting for now, more financial information. 7.3, 2019 Statement of Financial Information, and I will pass this straight off to Dave Spendrich.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Municipalities, we are required to prepare a statement of financial information report on an annual basis. The SOFI discloses information that is not explicitly found in the district's audited financial statements. The information includes a schedule of remuneration and expenses for employees whose gross salaries exceed $75,000, as was discussed earlier, a schedule of goods and services, and a schedule of severance agreements. As we've done in 2018, the schedule of remuneration and expenses now includes a separate column noting taxable emergency remuneration, which represents overtime paid to staff working on emergency operations. In 2019, that amount was quite low. In 2018, it was quite high. Again, it fluctuates on the year. It should be noted, however, that these expenses are fully recoverable from the province. In total, the district expended $34.2 million in 2019 and had one additional employee added to the over $75,000 wage disclosure, bringing the district's total number of employees to 36 on that list. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Any questions? You've all seen this move forward? Okay, I will ask someone to bring forward the recommendation, please. Councillor Bartlett.
I'll bring the motion forward as written in the agenda.
Thank you. And seconded by Councillor Van Elfen. Any further discussion? All those in favor? None opposed? Thank you. .4 is the financial plan 2020 to 2024. The amendment related to COVID-19. And again, I will pass this on to Mr. Savage.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So over the past 2 months, Council has reviewed and discussed numerous financial scenarios, as well as reevaluated capital priorities. Detailed historical reports showing these financial scenarios are attached to the report for reference. The report provides a table noting that the amended financial plan includes projected revenue reductions totaling $28 million when we compare to the original budget of approved back in February. Although this amount does summarize overall revenue reductions, it does fail to take into account the additional transfers from reserves to cover estimated shortfalls. In the two funds, specifically the electrical utility, there was a shortfall of $243,000, and in the water fund, it's about $43,000. So I put together a revised table, which is now on the screen in front of council, which includes these additional reserve transfers. This table now shows decrease in the district's overall operational spending of $3.29 million, or 9.5% in comparison to the improved budget. Over these 2 months, council has made the following decisions in order to provide some financial relief to Summerland residents. You've extended the annual property tax due date from July 3rd to September 30th, extended the 10% monthly utility discount until December 31st, 2020, reduced annual agricultural and domestic second service water rates by 25%, and reduced commercial, municipal, and residential water rates by 25% for the months of July and August 2020. So as noted, these decisions, along with estimated revenue decreases, primarily based on usage reductions, culminate to a $3.8 million revenue decrease. As a municipality, the district is required to have balanced budgets. Therefore, expenditure reductions amounting $3.8 million have also been approved by council. The largest reduction involved laying off approximately 20% of the district's workforce, which equated to $1.1 million in savings. These layoffs have impacted numerous service levels throughout the organization. However, the hope is that this will provide some flexibility in the future as the district looks to assist the community in its recovery in the years to come. Council also reviewed capital spending in light of the pandemic and reduced 2020 spending by $9.6 million. This included deferring 34 projects that were budgeted in 2020. Additionally, the scope of 2 projects has been adjusted by $3.5 million as the district was unsuccessful in receiving grant funding, one of which was the arts project that our CEO just spoke to. Council also deferred $4.29 million budgeted for the solar and battery storage project into 2021. The amended Schedule A attached to the proposed bylaw amendment summarizes all of these decisions of council related to COVID-19 into a one-page document as required by legislation. This schedule consolidates all revenues, both operational and capital, and does not segregate. So based on the information disclosed in this report, including the previous reports that have been attached, Financial Plan Amendment Bylaw 2020-015 is now ready for first 3 readings and adoption. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. So before we look at getting the motion on the floor, are there questions of our Director of Finance? Councilor Barkwood?
Not directly related to this report, but previously when we talked about our financial situation, there was some numbers on the number of delinquent accounts, utility accounts that are more than 2 months overdue, and that have grown quite a bit. Do you have any updated numbers on that off the top of your head?
I do, Councillor Barkwell. We looked at that just the other day, and our delinquent accounts are up by 345%. We've gone from about, I believe it was 28 at the same time last year in June to 100 and whatever 345% is. We as staff are looking at hopefully bringing a report to council in July. As many of you may have heard, Penticton is now moving ahead with moving back into the process of cutting people's power that have been delinquent. So we are looking at our figures and talking amongst staff to see how we can move this along, and probably we'll be bringing a report forward to council in July to address this issue.
Thank you.
Councillor Carlson.
Just to follow on that, if the property is rented and that property and the utility gets cut off, because the renters aren't paying, does it have to be paid off by the property owner before it goes back on? I just wonder if part of the challenge is that people who are perhaps renting and don't intend to stay a long time might not be paying their final bills or something.
It would be the obligation of the renter. If they were in the premises and they wanted the power turned back on.
Right.
We have had instances in the past where a renter has left the premises and not paid their bill, and that bill does get transferred on to the property owner.
Any other questions, Councillor Fennell?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just to clarify, but the property owner has the ability to come in and check and make sure that the utilities are being paid by the renter?
The district does send letters to both the renter and the landlord when accounts get into a delinquent status. So the landlords are notified.
Thank you.
So are we sending those letters out right now though, or is it because we're not enforcing until December? Are they still getting a letter? Oh, sorry, I guess we're not enforcing it. It's there's no penalty until December. But if it's delinquent, do they still get their letter this month?
In the early stages of COVID, the district, we did discontinue sending the rent notices. Just due to the hardship that some residents were facing. We have softened the letter a little bit, and we are now sending those.
Any other questions? Okay, I will call the question on then. All in favor? None opposed. Okay, thank you. That carries. 7.5 Parks and Recreation reopening update. Ms. Mullen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The purpose of this report is to provide council an update on the Parks and Recreation reopening plans, including the potential of reopening the Summerland Arena for summer use. As a follow-up to the council update on the reopening plans for Summerland Parks and Recreation on June 8th, staff continue to explore considerations and protocols to safely reopen spaces. The attached Parks and Recreation reopening matrix version 2 has been updated. This is a working document and will continue to be amended and updated as new information becomes available. As part of the process of reopening, several documents are being finalized and will be approved by the CAO and implemented by myself and my staff. These documents include the Parks and Recreation reopening plan, a Parks and Recreation facility assessment form, which is a staff checklist for us to load and do a facility audit of all our facilities and rental spaces before we open them up for organized use. COVID-19 safety plan for user groups. So we've got a safety plan and requirements for outdoor spaces as well as indoor spaces. We're also developing facility guidelines, so site-specific plans of what user groups must follow. We've got a safety plan created for our recreation programs, starting with outdoor programs. And we're in the process of developing safety plans for the Summerland Arena and the Summerland Aquatic and Fitness Center. So staff have had to delay the reopening of the spray park because of our lake level. So we're hoping to have that open in the next couple of weeks, depending on what the lake does. The farmers market has all their documents in place, and their COVID-19 plan has been approved by Interior Health, so they're ready to go for June 28th in the arena parking lot. The Art Center opened today, and the museum is slated to open later this week. In order to prepare for the introduction of organized activities in our outdoor spaces, which was a goal for the summer, staff have updated rental agreement terms and conditions, as well as participant informed consents for summer programs. As mentioned, we'll inspect our outdoor spaces utilizing the facility assessment form. We will be distributing the District of Summerland COVID safety plan for user groups of outdoor spaces and for recreation programs. And we will ensure that all user groups have a COVID safety plan specific to their activities being conducted in our parks, which must align with the directives of the Provincial Health Office, local authorities, and regulators. The sports groups' plans must align with their provincial sport organization and via sport guidelines, and all plans must be approved and upheld by the local organization's board or their rental applicant. Staff are looking to allocate funds from the revenues achieved through the campground to offset additional landscaping staffing funds to maintain these expanded outdoor services. These additions include more activities in the park, such as the spray park opening, organized pickleball play, the reactivation of the horseshoe club, the potential for equestrian activities at the rodeo grounds, organized sports in our sports fields, small events under 50 people in parks, as well as the recreation programs, which will be held in our parks. We're also considering sports fields and potentially, right now, as far as the requests for sports fields, it's really been the adult slow pitch league that has been requesting to reactivate their spring league to happen in the summer. We haven't had much request for sports fields. We haven't heard from minor baseball, hasn't reached out. Soccer is not sure yet. Girls fast pitch, I don't believe will be operating this summer. So right now, as far as we know, what we're hearing, and I've been trying to keep in contact with our outdoor user groups, it's the slow pitch ball fields that are in demand. And in order to do that and to get our sports fields up and ready for use and ongoing maintenance for 3 ball diamonds over the summer would be an additional $19,000 of staffing costs. So staff are meeting tomorrow to look at those costs in more detail, and we'll provide council with more information on that later this week. We have received an overwhelming amount of interest in the Summerland Arena ice bookings for this year. And so we've been doing some cost analysis around that to open it for the summer months. And based on the revenues anticipated for the requested bookings and the associated costs, it's estimated that we could provide a net revenue of about $18,000 for the summer season. If we experience additional costs that weren't expected, or potentially a 25% cancellation of our bookings, so they drop out, we say they want it and then they drop out. A more conservative estimate is breaking even. In the best case scenario, with having more people book our ice than we expected, it could be over $30,000 of net revenues to the district. So should council endorse the reopening of the Summerland Arena for July 13th, staff will proceed with implementing reopening protocols, which includes conducting a facility assessment audit, completing a WorkSafe BC COVID safety plan, outlining facility guidelines and expectations for user groups, implementing signage, cleaning protocols, traffic pattern directions, and updating our rental agreement with terms and conditions. Staff plan to follow up with user groups this week to reconfirm the ice bookings that we have and to secure their rental fees prior to starting up the plant, which would be at the end of this month. And if we experience people backing out of their commitments, we may reconsider the reopening for the summer season. That concludes my report, and I would appreciate any feedback from council.
Questions? Councillor Holmes and then Councillor Benham.
Yeah, thank you. I was just wondering the interest that's being expressed for the arena over the summer. Have you got a sense of possible, or are they actually taking registrations and
My understanding is they're quite serious and very much interested in our ice. Most of the groups are returning groups, so they're the groups that we've had every year. But because some arenas are not opening, we've got groups from other communities that are requesting ice time as well on top of what we know. But I believe it's quite serious, and they've been back and forth with our staff as far as protocols running safety.
Councillor Van Elfen and then Councillor Barnwell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Any update on the outdoor fitness equipment?
We are going to get it in this year, so we've got confirmation from Public Works that they can make that happen. I don't have a timeline, so we'll be before the summer months that we can get that in. And we're just looking at some other options of putting some surfacing down on the concrete pad and getting some quotes on that to see if we can get that within our budget. So to have a nice clean surface before we put the equipment in.
Thank you.
Councillor Barnwell.
Is there a limit to the number of people that can get up, go on the ice at any one time now? So then maybe they would have to put more hours to have the same number of people through the program?
Yes, so West Kelowna was the first municipal ice arena to open up, which was on June 1st. And it started with guidelines of 12 players and 2 coaches on the ice at one time. And there's been a task force looking at arenas and what's the magic number or the maximum of ice users that can go on the ice for activities such as hockey drills. And a guideline was just released on Friday from the BCRPA, indicating that up to 20 players and 5 coaches maximum at one time right now. So that's what we would be going with. And we've been back and forth with our group saying that it could be 12, so they do that at the beginning, and then we went back to them on Friday and said it's been up, and they were quite happy to hear that.
Councillor Holmes.
Yeah, thank you. Just to follow up on that, is there limitations of what they can and can't do in terms of logistic drills? Can they scrimmage? Can they NHL's struggling with all this? I can't imagine it's any easier at our level.
In this phase that we're in right now, they cannot do any games. They cannot do any contact drills. So they know that, and that's kind of the baseline situation. But as we move to phase 3, phase restart plan, they can start introducing modified gameplay and some slow introduction in contact activities. And so we're working with PS Ford and BC Hockey about what that could look like. But at this point right now, they have to prepare their safety plans based on just doing drills.
A couple of money questions. You mentioned that with the arena opening, you talked a little bit about potential revenues for that. Was that based on a July 13th opening? Yeah. Okay, great, thank you. And my other question was that you mentioned that slow pitch, you're getting a lot of demand from the slow pitch teams, but that would require, I shouldn't say but, that would require getting those fields open another $19,000 in staffing. Primarily, I guess, groundskeeping, right, maintenance, that kind of stuff. Okay.
So that would be preparing the infields, and there's a substantial amount of work that hasn't been done through the spring season. So we would need to get the infields in condition, and then the ongoing maintenance of that through the season.
Great. So that would, I guess, pretty much amounts to an increase in service levels. Okay, thank you. Good. I got a notice yesterday that the endless summer show and shine has been canceled. Yes. COVID related, of course. Any other questions? Okay. Could I have somebody bring forward the recommendation to receive the report for information, and that staff proceed with implementing protocols to reopen the Summerland Arena for July 13th. Councillor Trainer, you're okay with both those? Okay. Seconded by Councillor Van Elfen. Any further discussion? All right, call the question. All in favor? Any opposed? No, so that's carried. On to item 8, the second opportunity for public or media comment. Corporate officer, do we have any other speakers that have requested to speak at this point?
There are none, Madam Mayor.
Okay, it's easy. So now I will ask somebody on council to bring forward a resolution to close the meeting to the public. Pardon me. Thank you. Oh. Anyways, I think I have 2 agenda here. So yeah, if you could speak to that. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Apologies, this is a late item that was added at the beginning of the agenda. So I am going to display a PowerPoint and share my screen. Can you see the screen, everyone?
Yep.
Yeah. Great. Okay. So, Madam Mayor, last week, in the middle of last week, we were doing a few things. We were actually working on the meeting in July, 1st of July, and we got a new order from the minister with regards to local government meetings. So this particular report is to provide information to council on the changes to the meeting requirements under this new order, and also to consider the Summerland Arena Banquet Hall and meeting protocols for July 13th. So just to give you an overview, there have been 3 orders now regarding local government meetings. The first one, to take you back to March 26th, was to allow for council to meet electronically, with no public in attendance, and to allow bylaws to be adopted within 1 day. So council responded to that order by holding electronic meetings. We were able to live stream those meetings to members of the public through a YouTube channel. And council also directed that we limit the type of items brought to council for the months of April and May. On May the 1st, there was a new order, M139, and this particular order really just added the ability to hold electronic public hearings. So just recently, council has passed a policy on electronic meetings for public participation, which provided the opportunity, as we've been doing today, for members of the public to call in and to actually speak to items on the agenda as council is meeting. The new order, M192, is actually pulling back some of those things that have been opened up for council. So they're limiting the types of bylaws that we can adopt in a day. Still finance, so financial bylaws can still be adopted in one day, sorry. Open meetings only. So I say open meetings only because they do not include public hearings in this order. So this doesn't affect public hearings at all. Public hearings can still be held electronically. However, for open meetings, such as our regular meeting that we're having today, they are requesting that council make best efforts to, if you're meeting in public or in person, to have public in attendance. They also are saying if you're meeting electronically, that we have a facility that we can hear, that members of the public could hear or watch. So in other words, if council decided to meet electronically, we could have something set up in council chamber. The public would be able to come and watch the proceedings. There is flexibility, however, to waive by council resolution any of those requirements. So should council feel that there are options in place and measures in place for open, transparent decision making, then council may pass a resolution for one meeting in particular, or for a group of meetings to actually limit those particular openings. So with having this the first time bringing this to council, I've just highlighted the considerations there that council will need to think about with this new order. One of them is meeting location. Can we safely accommodate members of the public if we are meeting in person in council chamber, or do we require a larger venue? Meeting technology. As you may be aware, it's been quite a challenge to do both the in-person and the electronic, and that's all to do with the number of audio inputs. So I think this meeting kind of demonstrated some of those challenges. You do find too, if people are presenting through Zoom as the first presenter, if their internet connection isn't good, they could be freezing up and that kind of thing. So the technology that we have currently at the district is limited. And so that's just something to consider when we're looking at moving forward. And there are options, of course. And also meeting types. So do we want to continue public hearings through an electronic format? Do we have afternoon council meetings in one format and evening council meetings in another format? So there's lots of things to consider, and certainly there's no recommendation in front of council today to make any of those decisions. And part of the reason being that the first meeting that we're having after today will be July 13th. And at the July 13th meeting, council's directed that we hold it in person with public in attendance. And we also are working on a way to have electronic participation as well. So for July 13th, for this committee of the whole meeting, to ensure it's safely accommodating everyone, including council members, staff, and members of the public, these are some of the protocols that we're putting in place. So we're asking that people stay home if they're sick or if they're experiencing any symptoms of COVID-19, maintaining physical distancing of 2 meters, adhering to the hand washing and sanitization requirements before coming into the building or into the meeting room, and asking that people register for a speakers list in advance if possible. There's 2 reasons that we are going to be registering people, name, civic address, and contact information. One would be if they would like to speak, of course. We will build that speakers list by order of receipt of the registration. So we will do that ahead of time by contacting the corporate officer at summerland.ca, but also as people arrive, should they not have been registered previously, we can add them to the speakers list. That helps staff to, first of all, know if there's certain numbers of people coming. If we have to limit the number of people in the room at any one time, we have a list by which we can let people into the room and then ask them to leave after they've spoken to council. And we also need registration for the purposes of contact tracing, if required by the health authorities. So this is something that will be disclosed to everybody who registers. That's the only purpose for gathering that information. And then of course for the speakers list. So we will have staff that will greet and register participants at the meeting and monitor the attendance as well. And as well as the setup for the meeting itself, we are engaging an audiovisual production fellow to come in and actually run that meeting for us so that we have the multiple audio inputs, and the meeting will be live streamed just as we're doing now. Members of the public can participate by speaking to council. Right now, we're also figuring out the way that they can call in, so that's an option as well. So Madam Mayor and Council, I did make one slight change to the draft resolution that you may have seen on the report I sent earlier, and that's just to clarify the second recommendation of this, the second recommendation. So the first part is to convene the meeting in a different area than council chambers. So that's Summerland Arena, the banquet room, 2nd floor. And that members of the public wishing to attend the meeting provide us and register their name, civic address, and contact information as part of the speakers list. And that's also to ensure everyone is provided with an equal opportunity to participate. And then the second resolution is just to make sure we're cleaning things up. We're holding a committee of the whole meeting on the 13th, so we are going to ask council to cancel the regular meeting scheduled for July 13th at the same time. And that concludes my comments.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any questions? Councillor Holmes.
Yeah, just to clarify that, so everybody who attends on the 13th will need to register, not just whether they intend to speak or not.
Correct.
Thank you.
Councillor Patton.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Karen, are we still bound to the maximum of 50?
We are. So council, the mass gatherings is still a health order, And so that's partly why the list is going to be helpful, and we will have to have an area downstairs potentially for people to be properly spaced and waiting potentially to come into council to speak.
Thank you.
Councillor Hano?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So if there's 50 in attendance, someone speaks and there's a lineup, will they be asked to leave and someone else can come in?
That's correct.
Thank you.
I have a couple of questions too. So following up on your response just now to Councillor Van Elfen, will there be an opportunity, and I'm not sure if this is possible, if you are not in the first, say, 50 people, but you want to speak and you're in a different area just because of the numbers, will you be able to still hear what's going on?
Yes, so Madam Mayor, we are looking at the downstairs part of the arena, and there is a television monitor that is up in that area that we were considering. So we would do the live stream to that particular audio or video, and it's a bit of a delay, but at least they can be following kind of the meeting and the conversation.
Yes, that's great. Councillor, I just have one more question and then, oh, okay, go ahead.
Just on that, we should keep in mind that we just approved that that's the first day for the arena to be open, so we'll bring all the hockey players mingling in the lobby.
I just wanted to ask if, because this is so different from what we've done, and this is a pretty important committee of the whole, will there be extra advertising along those lines?
Madam Mayor, yes, council can direct staff to do additional advertising. Certainly social media will be part of advertising. The agenda will be posted as always the week before. Should council wish more than that, then absolutely provide that direction today.
Okay. Councillor Traynor and then Councillor Patton.
I just wanted to know what the meeting will look like exactly. Like, will we have a formal presentation, and then we ask questions, and then the public asks, or how will it work?
Anticipating, and CEO can step in if I misspeak, that there will be a presentation, a staff presentation on the project. So the report will be attached to that meeting, and staff will make a presentation. The consultants will be there to answer questions. But certainly council would be provided the first opportunity to ask questions, and then members of the public will be invited to speak, again for 2 minutes at a time. And should council have questions of members of the public, you're certainly able to engage at that time as well.
So are the members of the public going to be able to ask staff questions, or are they just giving their opinions to us?
They're providing opinions to council. Correct.
Okay, so that will come after we've asked all of our questions?
Correct.
Okay.
Councillor Patton and then Councillor Barnwell.
Oh, thank you, Madam Mayor. As Councillor Holmes had indicated in regards to the bottom head of the arena, have you considered using the currently rink upstairs that also has a large TV and direct access to the banquet hall?
Thank you. We are considering all options, actually, so we can look at that one. Thank you.
Councillor Barnwell?
I was thinking, when we have our normally our public hearings, people usually have 5 minutes for each speaker to ask questions. 2 minutes seems like we go by kind of quickly.
Yeah, the public hearing has a different council procedures. The normal time for people to speak is 2 minutes. However, again, council can have that discussion and provide direction otherwise. I think depending on the number of people that we have speaking, we want to make sure that everyone has a chance to participate. So certainly they have an opportunity to speak again once everyone has spoken. So it's again, it's up to council to direct otherwise.
This is showing as this is what we agreed to before, was a committee of the whole meeting, so different from a public hearing, but we could change the, yes.
I don't know, I can't say for sure, but maybe we'll have to see at the time. We could even change it during the meeting, I suppose. We'll pass a resolution that each speaker gets 4 minutes or 5 minutes or 30 seconds. But I'm just thinking that, I don't know, we'll see how it goes.
And just for clarification, that 2 minutes doesn't include conversation with council potentially, so they can speak for 2 minutes and then council may have questions or clarifications, so that's not included in that time.
So if someone came up and had a question and then that answer kind of a natural follow-up question came from that answer, would they, wow, your 2 minutes are up, or how would that, that'll be a decision that our chair is going to have to make, I'm sure, at some point here. Maybe we should make sure we got an answer before we get in that situation.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Councillor Barkle. Yes, I will take guidance from our corporate officer. Councillor Holmes.
Yeah, just also logistically, will the meeting be recorded? Will be streamed? Will it be the same process as this, where we'll need to zoom in on our laptops? Will we have access to our laptops during the meeting? All these sort of things.
Yeah. So because we are actually engaging someone from the community, the audiovisual community, you will not have to have your screens in front of you like we've done today. So it will be set up with cameras, and they will be recording the meeting. They will be also live streaming, and also members of the public will be able to call in to add their name to a speakers list. So we are still planning on doing all of those measures that we're currently doing today.
Yeah, go ahead, Councillor Holmes.
Okay, and just so moving on from this particular meeting, but looking at the big picture, what you were talking about earlier, and the considerations, I guess a lot of it comes down to money and how much, if we decide to have our meetings in a larger venue like the banquet room to accommodate the public, I think a lot of that will come down to cost. So I think we see, just have an idea of those numbers.
Okay, I just have a question of council. Find the resolution again. Oh, it's right in front of me. I'm wondering if anybody would be interested in having more communication or in terms of advertising or promotion about this particular meeting. And if so, please add that to the recommendation. Councillor Pat.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think the more that we can let the community know in regards to this meeting, I think the better. So it will give them a chance to make arrangements for that meeting to attend.
So could I ask you to bring forward, and I'll ask you to read it again, please, the draft resolution that's there, including the red bit, and also add in the request for council, for staff to do additional advertising. Sure.
That council convene a committee of the whole meeting on July 13th, 2020 at 1 o'clock at Summerland Arena Banquet Room, 2nd floor, 8820 Jubilee Road East. And that the members of the public wishing to attend the meeting on July 13th, 2020 register their name, civic address, and contact information as part of health and safety protocols, and for the purpose of a speakers list to ensure everyone is provided an equal opportunity to participate. And number 2, that due to the scheduling of a committee of the whole meeting on July 13th, 2020 at 1 p.m. at the Summerland Arena, the regular afternoon council meeting currently scheduled for July 13th at 1 be canceled, and that staff be directed to notify the public on more than one or earlier, or I'm I'm not sure how we're going to maybe wordsmith that for me.
Yeah, through the chair, Madam Mayor. So there's some opportunities to look at additional advertising through newspaper, social media, email lists that we have, and news releases as well. So over and above the typical newspaper ad for a public hearing that we would do, we've got the addition of Facebook page, Twitter account, and newspaper, making sure that we've got a couple of ads in the paper in advance of the meeting. Luckily, in advance of the 13th, we do have a 3-week gap in between, so it gives us a bit more time to get the message out if people are not already aware of the committee of the whole meeting on the 13th.
We also have the July newsletter.
July newsletter, correct. Our newsletter as well. So the newsletter will go out first week of July, so that'll be perfect timing to let everyone know.
Excellent. And thank you, CAO, for
that too long already.
Until that part. Then I had a mail moment.
Oh, no worries. So CAO, could you read back maybe what, or maybe Mr. Haddad, the third part?
We're playing devil's advocate here. So, Madam Mayor and Council, so the additional recommendation is that staff be directed to notify the public through advertising in the newspaper, social media, notification through our email list, a news release, and also include in the newsletter for July.
Okay. And it'll be on our website as well as too.
Correct.
Right. Sound good?
Fantastic.
Okay. I'm looking for a seconder. Thank you, Councillor Bartholomew. Now further discussion on the resolution. None? Okay, I'll call the question. All in favor? Any opposed? Carries. Thank you. Now that I have the proper agenda in front of me, resolution to close the meeting to the public. Councillor Van Elfen, seconded by Councillor Holmes. All in favor? Carried. Thank you.